Once again, thank you very much for joining us. Now, reports were rife that some hospitals in the Greater Accra region were rejecting national health insurance cards because of non-payment of claims by the National Health Insurance Authority. Now, Joy News checks at some hospitals in Accra have revealed patients are accessing medical care with NHIS cards, contrary to what is making rounds. And hospital authorities, however, admit that there are some challenges. My colleague Maxwell Agbagba is joining us right now from NIMA Government Hospital with details. Maxwell, what can you report?
Well, Beatrice, we visited a number of hospitals here in the Greater Accra region. Our first place was the Malamata Government Clinic, very close to the Malata market. There, I first had interactions with some patients who had visited the hospital. So at the outpatient department, I had interactions with them to find out from them whether they've been able to access medical care using their NHIS cards. In fact, 5 people that I spoke to, all of them confirmed to me that when they visited the hospital, that is yesterday, they were able to access medical care using the NHIS card. I later visited one of the officers in charge of the National Health Insurance scheme at that particular facility. In fact, she walked me through the consulting room register. Now, out of about 60 patients who reported at the hospital yesterday, about 40 of them were able to access medical care using the NHIS card. For those who were not able to access medical care using the NHIS card, they were not registered on the scheme. Well, she actually admits that yes, they have some challenges. In fact, she was unable to recall the last time the National Health Insurance Authority paid claims that they made to them. So she says, but for the patients who are still, doing the cash and carry business, but for them, they will not be able to, run the hospital. She says that these patients who report to the hospital and pay right after service, I mean, they largely rely on these monies to run the hospital. Our second stop was the Mamobi Government Hospital. There also we had interactions with some patients. All of them, in fact, all of them who had the NHIS card confirmed to us that yes, they've been able to access medical care using the National Health Insurance Scheme card. Now, here at our present location at the NIMA Government Hospital, we went in there, spoke to some patients before we had interactions with the authorities inside. The patients confirmed that yes, in fact, they've been able to access medical care using the NHIS card. About 3 pregnant women that I spoke to, in fact, confirmed this assertion. Later, I spoke to the doctor in charge here. He tells me that yes, the NHIS card, they are using it and patients are able to access medical care using it. But as it stands right now, since February 2016, they've not been able to access, payment from the National Health Identification Authority. So from these 3 facilities that we visited, it looks like all is going on well, but the common denominator has to do with the non-payment of claims made by these hospitals by the National Health Insurance Authority. In fact, here at this particular facility, they have a verification machine. So all national NHIS registrants who come here to access medical care using the NHIS card are confirmed by the verification machine. And that verification machine actually generates a code. And this code is used by the authorities here to fill the claims, the forms that they'll be using to assess the claims from the National Health Insurance Authority. So, Beatrice, from the hospitals that we've visited so far, it looks like all is going well.
That's because you also mentioned that there are some challenges as well. You've mentioned the non-payment of claims by the NHIA. Yeah. What other specific challenges are there?
Well, sometimes some of the hospital authorities that we spoke to actually say that some patients actually report to the hospital using a different NHIS card. So you find somebody coming to the hospital using a brother or a relative's NHIS card. Immediately they detect that they do not provide, medical care to the person based on, the insurance scheme that they have, at the facility. But for those who report with genuine NHIS cards, they are able to access the scheme.
You also talked about speaking with some patients. Sometimes there are usual reports that or complaints that they give them cheap drugs instead of expensive ones. So instead of accessing the expensive ones with their cards, they ask them to buy. Did you get that complaint?
Well, from all the interactions that we had with the patients who called on, who had visited the hospitals, none of that really came up. In fact, a lot of them are really impressed with what the service has to offer. There was a gentleman who I spoke to who tells me that, but for the National Health Insurance, scheme, he thinks he would have been dead because almost every 2 months he gets sick and he has to report to the hospital. He says he's unable to pay his medical bills using his meager salary. So for him, he thinks that the NHIS is a savior for him. So for all the patients that we spoke to, actually, none of them actually mentioned what you are asking, Beatrice.
And briefly, Maxwell, before you go, earlier there were reports that some of these facilities were owed as many months as 11. Did you have any other facilities confirming how many months they were owed in terms of claims?
Yeah, in fact, Beatrice, here at our present location at the NIMAKO Government Hospital, one of the officers, in charge here, the one that we spoke to, actually tells us that the NHIA has not paid their claims dating back to February 2016. So the last time the NHIA paid claims to this particular hospital was February 2016. In fact, at the Malamata Government Hospital, the medical personnel in charge there was unable to tell us the last time the NHIA paid the claims made by that particular facility. So yes, some of these issues are coming up.
Thank you very much, my colleague Maxwell Agbagba, reporting live from the NIMAKO Government Hospital in Accra. Let's go to the community of Karni, where visual impairment, of course, is a major source of morbidity in the world, with close to 300 million people living with one form or another. About 80 to 90% of this number, however, are people living in low-income earning communities in developing countries, including Ghana. And in the second part of our special feature from the village nicknamed Disabled Land, where Joy News' Komla Adom report, over 50 inhabitants are suffering visual impairment, with some more completely blind. Medical experts believe those whose condition are not hopeless as yet can get their condition managed, while others who are just reporting with early symptoms can be identified and given some special attention through medical outreaches.
The intriguing story about these people here in Karni is one which is laced with a lot of mystery. As we take the dusty road that leads to the village, I notice the scant presence of human existence. Eight years ago, 28-year-old Hamza lost his sight after he was hit by a football one afternoon. He recounts how that incident has left him permanently visually impaired.
I wasn't born like what happened to you? Yes, I think it was one day around 5 o'clock. I was at home. Then we went to play football. Sometimes you need to exercise yourself. Then we just moved. When I was in the distance on the field playing, I crashed with a friend, and then the ball hit my eyes, and that is where this problem came in. And when I moved to this, I went to this and visited the hospital. I think the specialist told me that there has been something like this in a glaucoma in my sight before. And that is where the problem. So when I received this, the excessive pressure on the eyes, then it gets deep in, and then this visual impairment came in. That will help me to have some small sight for some time. As of now, I can see, but I can't identify. That is the only thing.
Married with an 8-year-old son, Hamza is in his second year at the University of Education. But there is no void created in the garden. His wife manages his portion of the garden in his absence. He's been able to cater for his family with the small revenue generated from vegetable sale.
I've been a farmer and a student as well until I had this problem. So anytime at all I return from school, I try to work on the land, like to plow the land, to cultivate some crops, so that I will, after cultivating it, I think it is the weeding that matters a lot. When I weed it with my wife, I will travel back to the school, then leave the harvesting for her. And by his grace, I think things are always in order. If I even get a bag of corn, or even some let me say half bag of corn and a half half bag of beans, I think the two of us with the small child, sometimes it helps to some extent.
However, his condition is making education a pain, especially with the kind of treatment he receives from people. Hamza, very vocal, tells of his tertiary education struggles.
Whenever I start my journey, the prayer is the key. God knows best. And from Karni here, I moved to Wa. When I moved to Wa, I will alight at the PTA, then I will ask someone to help me to the lower station. Then I'll pick another I'll border another means to Kumasi. And from Kumasi, there's no straight means from Wa to Winneba. When I get to Kumasi, then I'll get another means to Makassar. The moment I alight, I have to look for a taxi, charter a taxi. If not 150, by 20 cedis.
But how easy or difficult has it been for you all these years?
It has been difficult sometimes because the financial problem and create burdens, or may I say barriers sometimes.
Okay.
If I don't have the money to afford the taxi, I have to move to the lower side, the roadside, and then probably be there and continue to stop me until I get somebody that will help me to that place. Yes. Sometimes some people see it necessary that with their condition they must assist you.
An area of urgent help the people of Karni require is undoubtedly the establishment of an eye clinic and the improvement of general health care here. Madame Elizabeth is a medical assistant at the health facility in the community. She tells me the facility does not have an eye center to cater for the needs of the over 50 persons who live with one form of eye defect or another.
We don't have eye clinic here. Okay. And with the health insurance, we only take care of conjunctivitis, maybe the people with discharges. But if we see that the condition needs much attention, we refer the person to Jiramba. They have an eye clinic where they can check them.
She also laments further healthcare challenges the community faces.
The space is a problem. Okay. The space is a problem. Like if you will get maybe about 2 people that you want to detain and observe, you can't do it. Okay. Because it's only one bed.
Okay. So the space is one, and then also when the space is provided, then it has to be beds too.
If the space is provided, maybe, and we get the beds about 2, we can add it to the one, and the other one self, the way it is very low. Some of us bending down, you have to sit. Or you call for assistance.
Some watchers have blamed the absence of an eye clinic in the community for the worsening situation, where many more people are getting visually impaired with each passing month. This position is rightly corroborated by Assembly Member of the area, Mr. Kabiri Luanga, who is of the view some of the visual impairments could have been avoided with prompt medical attention.
Eye is very delicate. Maybe, but if you have a problem with your eye, instead of you going to the clinic, because you don't have, somebody will tell you go into the bush and get some other things for you to use. So by the end of the day, your poverty will send you to that place.
However, resident in ophthalmology at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Vera Boyo, gives an indication of the severity of the matter and how many of us are exposed to some of these conditions inadvertently.
Visual impairment or blindness is a major source of morbidity in our world, with about close to 300 million visually impaired worldwide. Unfortunately, 90% of these visually impaired live in developing countries or low-income areas. There are several causes. Commonest in our part of the world is cataract. Now, the eye is a very specialized organ which transmits light waves from images through various mediums to the optic nerve, which interprets these images, and that's what helps us to see. Now, if there's any defect in any of these mediums, so the anterior part of the eye, the glassy parts that we see, that is supposed to be transparent, we have the cornea. Behind that is what we call the lens. If you have any defects in these, or the back of the eye, which is the retina or the nerve itself, then you'll be visually impaired or go blind. With cataracts, you have clouding or whitening of the lens, and the lens is in between. It helps bend the light waves onto the back of the eye, which goes to the optic nerve, which is supposed to interpret the images for you. So if you have this whitening of the lens, it means that images cannot be transmitted and you can't see the images properly. And cataract is very common in our part of the world. Then we also have glaucoma, which is also not very common, but it's present, and it's even though it cannot be cured, it can be treated. Then we have other causes like complications of diabetes. Now we are seeing a lot of cases of diabetes emerging in our parts of the world, even though previously it was thought to be more common in the Western world. But diabetes is creeping up in our society, and you can have complications in the eye from diabetes.
One study estimates that measles causes up to 60,000 cases of blindness a year globally, with poor access to measles vaccination and malnutrition often correlating with high rates of blindness in the most affected countries, including Africa. It is believed that some of the conditions among residents here could have resulted from measles and other chronic diseases. To salvage what is left of the Karni community at this point, Dr. Boyo prescribes regular medical outreaches.
We also
And for the full report of this story, join us at midday. We'll bring you that. Also, an NGO which looks to adopt this disabled community in the remote part of the Upper West region has been extending some help to the about 400 physically challenged persons there. And in the final part of this special feature, we'll tell you how. Let's come right here down in Accra, and police in the region have launched a manhunt for the mastermind of Sunday's attack at Old Fadama here in Accra, in which 3 people reportedly sustained machete and gunshot wounds. 14 other suspects are currently in police custody helping with investigations. Joy News' Latif Idris has been to the troubled community and has come through with the following report.
There seems to be no end in sight as far as clashes and reprisals, and sometimes deadly clashes within the community of Old Fadama is concerned. Politically motivated clashes have gone on within this community for the past 8 years, and it appears we've not seen the last of such attacks yet. Just yesterday, Sunday, we had yet another attack within the community, and this time it wasn't between the MPP and the NDC. It was within the ranks of the governing NPP. This attack has resulted in the destruction of properties, and also 3 people, as we speak, are currently receiving treatment at the hospital. The police have been speaking to us on this subject.
We were able to arrest some persons, numbering about 14. For one of them, what we see was something we suspect was a gunshot wound. If at the end of the day we don't get material evidence enough for us to be able to prosecute, it becomes very difficult.
So these guys
now speak to the Greater Accra Regional Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Police Service, ASP EFIA Tenge. You just heard her speak a little bit about what they are doing right now. Good morning to you, ASP. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
What can you tell us about this manhunt?
Yes, thank you very much, and also good morning. Regarding Sunday's incident at Old Fadama, yes, the police proceeded in arresting the 14 persons we have already spoken about. However, there was one person among them that we were told that he was the leader, and unfortunately, we could not lay hands on him. So we have been putting in place some measures to be able to get him arrested. However, we have also not been successful in that regard. Those who were also arrested, we had some of them sustaining some minor injuries, and those of them have been granted bail. That was yesterday for them to be able to visit the hospital and also receive some medical attention or care. And we hope that by the close of this, we should have a clear direction as to what we are doing with all of them. We have begun going for allocation of the docket, and then we hope that in no time we should have all of them being paraded or arraigned for a competent court of jurisdiction for their cases to be heard.
You talk about the difficulty in finding the prime suspect. What information do you have? Is he still in Accra or out of the region?
Yes, whatever information I have, I don't think I have to disclose it, because no matter how I try to tell you some of these things, then I am also pushing him far away from us. So whatever I have, I believe that should remain with the police for us to be able to get him arrested.
You also talked about the need to send these to court when you're done with your preliminary investigations. Are they going to be paraded before the residents, for instance, before they are proceeded? You send them to court?
Paraded before who? The residents? Exactly. No, in terms of investigations, we have people who were even issued with the medical forms as to whatever happened, and they suffering the degrees of injuries. All these people have also been given medical form, and they also serve as witnesses. So in our bit of investigation, we get all these people, and we ensure that we get whatever material evidence we need to be able to prosecute them. So regarding the investigations aspect, we are doing all that to be able to ensure that we just nail them in the bud.
Those who are already in your custody, have you charged them, and what is the charge?
For now, we are holding them for rioting and also causing harm for now. I don't know if by the end of the investigations we may have further charges.
What about the community? Is there any special police presence there to ensure that whatever happened doesn't recur or escalate?
For the community, I think right after the elections, we put in place some measures, and that has to do with deployment of some security personnel. We even had military attachments together with the police who were collaborating with us, and we were all working together. But some of them have been withdrawn, and depending on the situation, depending on our assessment and evaluation, we are able to provide security and the needed security that we need to ensure that they need. But regarding Sunday's incident, we still have men who are within the premises to ensure that we don't have other reprisal attacks, or we don't have any of these issues escalating.
Thank you very much. ASP EFIA Tenge speaks for the police in the Greater Accra region. You're still here on News Desk on Joy News. Now, the family of two people who were murdered at Miocho, a community close to Pram Pram in the Greater Accra region, have petitioned the acting IGP, David Asante Pietu, over their killing allegedly by police officers. The family says 62-year-old Francis Tete Boche and Mohammed Jiwonu were shot and killed in December 2016 by 5 police officers from the Tema Region Police Command. According to them, the police officers complicit in the matter are yet to be arrested. The lawyer for the family has been addressing a news conference at Miocho, from where Maxwell Agmagba reports.
29th December 2016 will forever be etched on the minds of the family of Francis Teteboche and Mohammed Jiwonu. The two were killed when officers of the Tema Regional Police Command responded to a distress call about some unscrupulous men who had entered the community wielding guns. The gunmen touched these two vehicles in the area. The officers who were called to respond to the violence ended up in a two-story building being constructed by Francis Teteboche and his mason Mohammed Jiwonu. The family of the two slain men believe police officers killed the two. That is the exact spot where Francis Teteboche was murdered in cold blood. Inside this building also, there's a splash of blood on some parts of the building, depicting how the mason who accompanied him that very day was also killed. Family members of the 62-year-old man are living in constant fear.
There were police people, 4, dressed with their helmets, with guns and stuff. So when they got to the place, actually I didn't know the old man was there. So by the way they were walking to the direction, I was watching them. So when they reached there, 2 passed the other side and then 2 passed the other side. And then the old man saw them and he came out. So when he came out, he was not holding anything. He came out and then one of the policemen asked him to lie down. And he did, he lied down. And then like he was facing them upwards and then the policeman asked him to face the floor. So he just faced the floor, and then the policeman started firing. Why he did that thing? So there was a mason working on the building for our father. So he went there, like the mason heard the noise, so he tried like asking questions. No, they fired the mason too in addition. So the old man, where the thing happened on the old man, I saw everything, but the mason was inside. But I heard the noise. He was asking what's happening, what is going on, and then he was also fired.
Meanwhile, addressing a news conference here in Accra, lawyer for the family, NIMAKO, SAFO, called on the office of the IGP to cause the arrest of the officers believed to have committed the act.
That is Mr. Francis Teteboche and Mohammed Jiwonu. Teteboche was ordered by the police to turn himself upside down and he was shot in the head. The man was shot in the head. Several bullets from the autopsy and the coroner has confirmed that Mr. Boche was shot deeply in the head. The brain and everything in the skull were all off for no apparent reason by the Tema police. These are the pictures of the policemen who did it. Now, one of the guys who was in the building with Mr. Boche, that is Mohammed Jiwonu, who is a mason, when he came out to confront the police, he was shot dead immediately by these 4 police people. Now, from 29, now we are calling on the IGP, the acting IGP, Mr. Asante Apietu, that he should bring his men to order for the immediate arrest of these policemen who were found to be part of this act, and also call for the docket to have it properly investigated.
Reporting for Joy News, Maxwell.
You're still here on News Desk on Joy News. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest from the floor of Parliament. Don't go away.